Oh, Logan. Logan's my moderator now. I don't know if he told you.
Yeah, he told me that. Hello, chat.
Yep.
All right, so I figured now would be a good time to have this because then we don't have to bother parking. I got to grab my notebook. So, as we know, for those of you that don't know or haven't seen, 2 years ago I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, and it has been like, let's just call it a shit show. Ever since basically life blew up, it has been some sort of, I walked my mental health stability uphill 2 ways and 3 feet of snow both ways, 14 miles. But what I wanted to talk about is because despite me being certified in multiple areas of psychology, not a licensed professional, but certified in topic by topic, because of my experience, because of my literal years of, also maintaining and going to doctors to maintain my mental health since the age of basically 4. I've basically been, I'm a lifer when it comes to improving mental health and clarity. Which is why the most recent thing that I went through actually was the worst of everything. I mean, I've lost my mother. I was locked in, basically held hostage in a detached dwelling, essentially with no way to escape. I went on from there to be extorted by my father-in-law from my marriage of 24 years, and none of it, I don't think, measures up to how hard the last year has been because of what I encountered. So, I am not trying to victim shame, okay? Just so everybody understands that, especially because I've experienced it. But one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that when you go through something where you develop any form of, like, especially childhood trauma, if you go through something like that, or you end up where you are dealing with Well, in my case, when in August of 2023, right? Is that the right year? Is it August 2023? Yeah, it would have been 2023. Yeah. When I finally kind of escaped the last round of everything, I decided I didn't have very many people left in my life, and I decided to lean on what I consider to be basically my last real life friend. We had been friends for like 17 years and whatnot. So my husband and I are having problems. I know I talked about it a little bit in the last stream, and I don't need to rehash that. But here's the thing that I didn't understand about it and what was so hard for me, and I wanted to talk about it, and I think that IG being here, because most of IG's life, this person was almost like a second father figure to him. And so there's been some key things. This first thing I want to start off with saying is, I want to believe that like he didn't mean to be as emotionally abusive or take advantage. I really want to believe that, but I think that is me just being over positive. I think that I wanted to look past red flags. There's a song out there that says something about taking red flags and stitching them into roses. And I think that was like my life goal up until this. But here's the thing that really bothers me about it is you've got so much training, you've got so much knowledge, you know all this shit, right? How the fuck does it end up where you end up being taken advantage of again? And how do I stop it? Because I want it to stop. I want to stop being a fucking victim, right? So, oh, that was loud. I hit the microphone. Sorry, guys. So anyways.
Didn't even come through on Discord.
And I saw it pop through on OBS. So anyways, what I wanted to talk about, though, is because it's, especially with abusive relationships and domestic things of nature, like people are always like, why didn't they leave earlier? How can you let somebody treat you that way? And how, And I mean, I've also nationally certified domestic violence advocate, okay? Nationally certified sexual assault advocate, okay? So I literally actually have I forget what it's called. It's the VAT, the victims advocacy training through the national means. So actually I've made it as far as you can make without being granted, like as far as you can go without being granted special clearances, because things like being an advocate for anybody that is military related, it takes special clearance and all of that. So, Logan might get yelled at. Okay. Wait, I can do this. I can just... Okay, there. I found a way to do it. Anyways, so one of the things that has really bothered me and what's been so hard, especially since we've restarted our new life in February down here and moved away from everything and really truly been working on healing. I'm not going to lie. There are a couple things, and this is what makes it so hard, because there are a couple things that like I was called out for by this person. Like a couple things that I was called out on really highlighted the areas where I was still unhealthy, which I'm thankful for. Because when I was willing to look in the mirror and admit it and stop being angry, it allowed me an ability to look at that behavior, because here's the thing. So I'm just going to go down. One of the things because is he a narcissist, or is he just a victim because his wife is a narcissist, or was it just childhood trauma? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a licensed professional. But what I do know is the behaviors were, I want to not say abusive, but the truth is they actually were. And I didn't even know it. And so how does somebody that's certified in all these areas and everything be so swept off of like everything I know? I mean, besides the fact that I was already struggling with PTSD complex, and whatnot. So I'm already emotionally vulnerable, but that's where I'm going with this. A lot of people don't know, and let's look it up. It was because the statistics change all the time. I'm going to type it up so I can get the right number. All right. Let's see what it says. Prior trauma, mental health, social factors. So, what are they going to tell me? Yeah. So 24%, which is actually a smaller number than I remember, 24% of people who have been victimized will be re-victimized. So think about that. Think about that. You have 4 people. That's 1 in 4. That's 1 in 4. So for every time you could be going around, living your life just fine, you know, childhood trauma is going to make you even more susceptible to it. But you are literally carrying yourself with a hypervigilance that predators can sense and know how to take advantage of. So my biggest problem with this last thing that I've gone through was I being sought out, and was it a goal? I have lots of beliefs in it, and I'll never know if any of them are right. But I did want to talk about how maybe I wish I would have stopped. I wish I would have picked up an actual statistic instead of trying to figure everything out in my head, because I kept feeling crazy. I'm like, well, and I told him multiple times, I'm like, your actions don't match your words. You say this, but then you do that, and it can throw me completely confusion, and already self-doubt with the fact that I was dealing with everything I was dealing with, already being vulnerable, all of that shit. So I kind of thought that today I would like to go over it, and I kind of wanted IG here because now he can see, because it's very hard not to internalize this when you think you've been so close to somebody, especially for when it's been like 17 years. Okay, but we didn't have the kind of relationship that developed. So, you're kind of just like always looking in through a glass. It's not, what goes on behind closed doors is what goes on behind closed doors until you're a part of that. And so how did I end up being drawn in and taken advantage of by the last person that I trusted in the world, and why the fuck couldn't I see it? That has caused so much anger and so much of a quest for trying to find validation. What did I do? How come I couldn't tell this was going on? Why am I not good enough? Like this self-doubt and everything that comes from it. So I ended up finding out, because ever since it's going on now, I don't know if you realize this, IG, but let's see, where are we at right now? So July, August, September. We are 9 months free. 9 months. It's been 9 months since, yeah, I know, right? Since interactions with this person, on that level. So
Crazy.
I know, right? So, so whether or not he's an actual narcissist, because I don't want to go around labeling him like that, although it's really me procrastinating. Like I've read and I've been told and I've sought out help, and everything points it's a hard thing to ignore. But I, just because of my own emotional side of it, it's really hard for me to just be like, yep, that's it. He's just an evil, demonic narcissist. I really have trouble just believing that, because there's a part of me that believes that in the beginning, how that behavior was so I thought, of course, I was played on, because what chat would want to know about me, if you don't know this, and anybody that ever watched me at Second Gen Geeks already knows this, I have this puppy dog syndrome. One of my very first psychiatrists told me I had a God complex. Said that I believed that because I found my way to living a happier, healthier lifestyle as a survivor, that I believed I could inspire and or guide other people struggling with mental health to reach that point, show them that they too could live a different life and be happier, be healthier, and survive, because if I was able to do it, so could they. He also then told me, that was literally his words, swear words and all. He's like, that's fucking bullshit. Not everybody is as capable of it, and it is time for you to start realizing it. Which clearly I'm still not. I'm stubborn. I'm a horrible stubborn. If God is our almighty father, he's like, oh my God, bitch, you are one of the worst pains in my ass to have to parent. I am a problem child. So, however, this last thing has taken me so much time to let go of, so much time to not be negative, so many tears, so many, just levels of emotion that I don't even think it should affect me on. And so, get ready for this. You ready for this? I'm going to read you something, IG, and you're going to help me dissect my brain, okay?
Okay.
All right. So we think about the year, because it went on from October 20th of 2023 until September of 2024. That's how long, like, basically this went on. So, yes, I know the dates. So here are the impacts of the effects of narcissistic abuse can be severe and long lasting, leading to a range of symptoms, including. So, because I really did believe during all of this that I was just fucked up. But now let's look at the different ways that I was affected during that year of time. Because I know that both you and Power Kane saw my personality shifted. The person I was became almost, you know, like I was so out of character. My behavior and everything was so out of character. Logan, can you do me a sound check? Was so out of character for who I am. So, here we go. The symptoms. Symptom number 1. Emotional confusion and anxiety. Victims may struggle to understand the situation and feel overwhelmed by the narcissist's behavior. We check that one off? Did I have that symptom? Yeah, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, get ready for this one. Hypervigilance. They may become hyper aware of their surroundings, the narcissist's actions, and constantly anticipating negative interaction.
That is definitely, yep.
Avoidance. Victims may isolate themselves from the narcissist and others to protect themselves from further abuse.
Yep.
We sound good? Okay. I mean, I literally have never kept the kids away from me. Like, I mean, all the things we've been through and the fact that we were traveling for so long, if we want to call it that, all the other adults in our life got so annoyed because all the kids wanted to be around me all the time. And they would follow me. They wanted to be around me. And so I was always in a position. There was one point where I was at my father-in-law's house and all the kids were in my room. And the place was like not even, fucking, it was like 12 by 13, if even that. Like, I mean, or 12 by 10, if even that. Like, it was like, well, I mean, maybe that's a larger room than what I'm used to. I don't know. It was a small room. I know that I couldn't fit a desk and a bed in it. That's what I know. I was Harry Potter, just not under the stairs. Actually, that room was under the stairs. But the point is that I never locked my doors until we got to that house. We never did I need to have time away from everybody the way that I did until we got to that house. I mean, we literally went and installed a lock so that I could lock the door because I was literally trying to keep myself away from everybody because I was so caught up in my head and so still trying to heal from what I had already gone through, not realizing that there was new things happening on a daily basis to me that I hadn't accepted or realized. That I was batshit crazy. I was literally, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I hate that terminology. I hate whatever it may bring with it. But I think that is the best way to, so I was avoiding those that I loved. I didn't want to be a problem for them. I wouldn't get out of bed for days. I don't get this, but he was under the impression that I just had so many friends that I'd be fine. So like, he's like, you talk to more people than I do and da-da-da-da-da. Not realizing how isolated and cut off from the world I had made myself because of everything I had been through. That's the other thing. There was so much care and concern about what I had been through, so much compassion and empathy, so many wholesome moments where I was told something that made me actually feel like he was being victimized as well. Like I saw him as a victim in what he was going through in life. And it was like now, so I was watching this thing on, I was watching Law & Order and you know the episode, you'll know the episode, IG, where the lady, like, goes and she, like, has killed, like, 7 rapists, right? And she's got a kid. You remember that one? And they end up finding out that she actually killed the mother and took the kid because she has what Dr. Wong calls a cocktail personality disorder, which I think is basically borderline, by the looks of it and sounds of it, it's borderline personality disorder. But literally it's known as, like, a chameleon symptom where they're able to look and read the emotions and actions of another person and then literally like morph and become what that they need to be in that moment for that person to give them the reaction they are looking for. Okay, so here comes there's three more symptoms. Ready? Self-blame and low self-esteem. The constant criticism and devaluation in narcissists can lead victims to question their own worth and self-image.
Yup.
Wow, right? Like, when have I ever thought I'm anything less than awesome? Ever. When? Even when I've gone through everything I've gone through, have I ever thought I'm anything short of awesome?
Nope.
Only for that year, huh?
Yep.
Okay? It gets worse. Loss of identity.
Oh God, how?
Loss of identity. The
Deepest
narcissistic abuse the narcissistic abuse can strip victims of their sense of self, leaving them feeling confused and uncertain about who they are. How many times did I excuse the behavior because I just figured I was so hard to put up with and so much work and so sick because I had PTSD and whatever. It's like I was bleeding and the great white smelled that shit and wanted to play with their food before they killed them. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like. So again, chat, I can't turn around, sit here and be like, oh yeah, absolutely narcissist. I'm not qualified to say that shit. Okay. What I can tell you is that I, for the last year, have experienced and hit. I don't want to put the PTSD because the last one is PTSD. But here's the thing, remember? So I go into the psych ward, and when I come out, I feel so much better. It was what I needed to do to help myself, and I felt so much better, right? The problem is when you have PTSD, it can be reactivated. So severe narcissistic abuse can trigger PTSD-like symptoms, including flashbacks, nightmares, and hypervigilance. So
I thought that was the first one, bro.
Hypervigilance is in there. Emotional confusion and anxiety is number one. Okay. But what it's saying is I already had PTSD complex when this whole thing started, right? So it was exasperating all of my already in place. That's why I don't want to blame this one. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, and I'm not trying to place blame. Here's the deal, guys. I'm going to tell you very point blank. When it comes to, oh God, wait until I read you this one. But when it comes to dealing with these kind of personalities and things, like everybody goes through something and how people react to them is what changes and morphs where we go from there. And so like labels, I know a lot of people hate labeling, but for me, sometimes applying those labels gives us a starting point in order to understand like what's gone on. Like when my son was diagnosed with autism, did I want him to be labeled as autistic his whole entire life? You know, like, does anybody really want that? Well, he is. And it gives me a starting point to know how to help him. It gave me something to learn about. And this is how I know that after a year of being in this quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, relationship, whatever the fuck it was, okay? In that year's time, or I'm sorry, 11 months, okay, that I was involved in that, I think that it's more important to look at how I was affected than trying to assert, like trying to blame or trying to pinpoint or trying to label. But here's the deal, and the reason why I'm bringing it all up is because now hindsight is 2020, and I look back on it, and it's like, this makes sense, and then yet I still have these moments where I just extreme sadness, which I read an article the other day that was talking about that. It was talking about how people who experience this and go through this will often experience like the deepest form of sadness that they've ever felt, and I literally felt like a piece of my soul was missing when I finally was like, okay, obviously this is not going anywhere, you know, like, and I still have trouble. I mean, I don't have trouble where I miss it anymore. I'm not angry anymore. I have moments now where I look back because there were 17 years before this last year, right? That happened. And so I look back on it and I'm just like, wow, what a waste. And how long was he pretending? And how long was it all for this opportunity? Was it all for just because I was fucked up when we met anyway? Then I got healthy and I was gone and I lost contact for like 7 years and I got healthy. He had no idea who I had grown to be while I was gone. And nor did he ever try to care. Never reached out to me, never talked to me, no interest there. But I believed he was like the one person in the world I could trust, right? Yet while I was with him for a year and told him very openly that I had been diagnosed with PTSD complex and what to expect even, he never did any research. And then when I asked him, I was like, you never even cared. You don't even know what I've been struggling with. You just, you know, which it can be very hard. Here's the other side of it. The truth is when somebody's struggling with PTSD, and IG will be the first to tell you, it is not easy to be somebody who loves somebody with a mental illness. It is not easy to watch something. You have no control. You have no way. There's nothing anybody can do when it really comes down to it. I mean, you can, there's things you can try to not make the situation worse, but as far as actually helping somebody and pulling them out of this, that is going to be like, there's just really, it is a personal get into the depth of your heart and soul, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You got to find your way out. The one thing you don't need, though, is people throwing more hiccups and road bumps in your way, because that'll just prolong whether or not you're able to heal to the best of your ability. So when you understand this, like a lot of people are going to feel like they just get, if you don't understand what's going on, it's going to feel incredibly overwhelming. If you don't know that person, it's going to feel incredibly toxic. I mean, I can't argue with the fact that my behavior has been toxic. Like I'm going to full out, straight out own that shit. There's things that I realized that I behaved at that I even look back and I'm like, why the fuck would I act like that? It was making me super confused. But it's part of the PTSD. And once I was able to finally start healing and realizing that, that's when you can, because I watched this really great, I took a seminar, it's a college course on understanding how trauma affects family and whatnot. And it's trauma-informed care for family trauma-informed care. And one of the things that instructor, his name is like Robert Rotan, and he works for the University of Arizona, I think, in Phoenix. I want to say it is. But he talks about the fact that when you are in a hypervigilant state, it's like trying to get Hulk versus Bruce Banner mode. So you're trying to get Hulk to learn things, and their brain's so off the wire that Hulk's not learning anything because it's the anger, it's being blocked. And the only way that you can be receptive enough is if you're calmed down and you're more in a Bruce Banner state of mind, which a person who is deep in the throes of struggling with something like PTSD is not going to find as many moments when they're in a Bruce Banner mode. What can happen, though, is they could be sitting perfectly fine in a Bruce Banner mode and making their progress when somebody else activates Hulk mode unknowingly. And it's no fault. It's like, people are human. It's not about that. But it's about the fact that here's what I do know. As you grow and you get better and you're learning things, and if you're doing everything you can humanly possible for yourself and you try to communicate those things and literally give a roadmap to another person, telling them how they can stop from hurting you and why it hurts, and then they continue to do it, that is something completely different. And that is exactly what I fucking experienced. So anyways, I think it's really important. Like, nothing okays my actions. I was sick. I mean, I went to a psych ward. I was struggling. I think I'll have a mental illness for the rest of my life. PTSD is I wanted it to be something that I beat, and I wanted to be proud of that, but there's a reason why there are no statistics like that, because it is going to be dormant. It's going to be lying, and it's like deep within me. And if I don't learn how to control myself, then it'll just leave me more susceptible to other people activating it again. And the real hard part about that is when you already feel like a shit and you already feel like you're a problem to everybody, and then you feel bad for how you treat the people that you love and the people that are around you. You think that they're all better than you and they love you and they don't deserve however you're acting. Well, that makes it a prime point for people who are not so good-willed or have the best intentions to open that door, and leaves you extremely, susceptible to believing and following along or not seeing things or whatever, that the way that you would if your brain was firing on all cylinders, to put it bluntly. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
So it's really, so rather than worry, like when you're thinking about and you're helping people with mental, problems and whatever, I think a lot, kids that have parents who are mentally struggling, or, parents who have kids that are mentally struggling, or even friends, however you look at this, there's a real sense of you love this person so much that you want to help them. Well, the likelihood of you being able to help them is very slim. The likelihood of you being able to be supportive so they can help themselves, that is where it's all at. That, and that requires education. That requires self-education. Understanding why their brain is firing the way it is, understanding why there may be erratic behaviors, and understanding how they may sometimes almost appear to live in their own reality, because they're literally over there, and it can be very self-loathing, So here's where it gets really freaking crazy. Narcissists as victims. Because you know how I've been going back and forth with this? And I've been like, is he a victim? Is he a narcissist? Was it just because I was so fucked up? What's going on? What ruined this friendship and relationship that I had, that, the last person that I trusted in my life, is it really malice? Is it malignant? Because it feels like it, because all the behaviors point to the fact that it's very narcissistic. He got what he wanted out of me and he was done. Everywhere I've gone to, that's the consensus, that I need to just let it go, move the fuck on. There's nothing real there. He's a narcissistic ass, and there's nothing that will ever change it. That's what I've been told. But here it says, It's important to note that narcissists often play the victim themselves, manipulating situations and blaming others to maintain their image of superiority and deflect responsibility. This can further complicate the experience for victims who may find themselves questioning their own perceptions and sanity.
Really?
Yeah. 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 Then I love this part.
Well, yep.
If you suspect you are the victim of narcissistic abuse, it is crucial to seek support from a trusted friend, family, or mental health professional.
Oh my God.
Yeah, isn't that ironic? He was the last person I trusted.
Yep.
I opened up so fucking much, and I literally gave him the key to decimate me, and he almost did. He almost did. And I look back, and I think that's the hardest thing to accept. And there's so many people, because my dad was a narcissist, and that would make so much sense to me, because in the throes of my PTSD and all my trauma being whatever, then I have daddy issues, to put it just mildly. I have freaking daddy issues. It's just the way it is. So I have to accept that. I'm still working on it. I watched my father hurt and disrespect women specifically my whole life. I mean, I watched him lie to his own parents and stuff too. But I mean, and he was awful to me and my sister. Hence why I've been on my own since I was 15. But I just think it's very ironic that literally what I needed most, he had a choice. He could have been the friend that I needed. So either he's a narcissist or he chose not to be. I mean, those are like the only two options I have left. It's either he's a narcissist, at which point I'm not sure how much forgiving I can do, because I just don't feel like I can forgive it. Like, I don't care what it is, because I think he's capable of being better. I mean, people will say that narcissists can't get better. And that's usually, though, because they won't be willing to give up the power and control they have learned to achieve by acting the way that they do. However, there was that one incident where he walked out of the house with that gun, and then I turned around and I followed him, and I came all the way back down from 20 miles away to go make sure it was okay. He was okay. And he was threatening himself. And I said, the next time that you threaten yourself, the only people that are going to be showing up won't be me. It'll be 911, because I don't want anything to happen to you, but I'm not setting a precedent that I'm going to come running every time you threaten your life. And then he never did it again, but he did it all the time with his wife. So that's a choice. He was like, I know the action and consequence here, so we're not going to push her that way, but no problem getting the reaction that he wanted. When his wife found out what had happened between the two of us, literally calls me over to babysit him because she wanted to leave, but wouldn't leave him alone because she was afraid he was going to hurt himself. That's those kind of things that I look back on. I'm like, that is so fucking wackadoodle. Like, and I was like, no. And if I had been any stronger, I'd have been like, sorry, let him shoot himself right now. Like, I'm not coming. I'm not coming over there. I'm not putting myself in that situation. So that was one of them that really struck me. Another one was when I put the brakes on and I said I needed space and I tried to set my boundaries, because this one comes up. So, I looked up symptoms of behaviors that cause people to feel like they are in a narcissistic abusive relationship, right? And so boundary violations, making inappropriate demands. You remember when I was like, this is not right. We can't do this. Like, I was getting better, and I was like, told him that we need to put space up. And the next day he called me in the morning and told me he had slept in his car all night and that he just needed a place to sleep. And I let him come over and sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Could he get me to lift that boundary? Because I had said we needed space, and very next morning, I let him come over and sleep during the day. And I mean, I kept working, and it was nothing, but it's just the point. No, my answer should have been no. I told you we need space from one another. We need space from one another. My puppy dog syndrome that he's known I've had for fucking 1,000 years, he played on it and managed to come over, and then it's a victory for him. Because I'm not the one stopping it. He is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what seems like it was, but he would say, I wasn't disrespecting your boundaries. I wasn't doing that. That's what he would say. He would say, I just thought I could come to you and need you because you're my only friend, whatever he would have fucking spieled at me about it. But the real truth was it was a test to see if he could still overstep those boundaries.
Yep.
And I let him. Which also, ironically enough, for narcissists, they like the chase a lot more. When they think something's going to be harder to achieve, they'll try to they want to break that down more. So it took no real work to break it down. And I remember him being like, I just want a place to sleep. It's okay if you say no because I know what you said last night, but if I could just come over and just sleep, that's all I want to do. And then I was like, yeah, you can do that. And he parked his truck in the garage and shut it and hid from his wife and fucking slept at my house, and that's all that happened. But checkmate. Checkmate. He won. That's the irony, though. No matter what, as a victim of this, you feel like a loser. It is so hard to get over, and it is so hard to wrap your head around the fact that you're not fucking the crazy one, that you're like, because it feels like it. It feels like it. Especially when you already know you're struggling with something and then you come into contact with some shit like this. Dear God.
Yep.
But all he was doing was watching me, deducing, and knowing exactly. I wonder how many things were actually planted in my head. You know? Like suggestions made of what I needed to do or whatever, you know? And I should have, and then, so I also learned that with narcissistic personality disorder, one of the biggest things is, and this is what floors me, because even for a while I was even asking, I was like, wait, am I the bad one here? Like I was asking my mental health professionals, maybe it was me, like maybe I'm, and it was like the fact that you are even entertaining the idea that you're worried or concerned that you might be displaying anything narcissistic means you're not one because you care, you know, and whatnot. But there's a few things that I wonder if he picked up on that made him like scale back. For example, trying to tell me how much I could drink at a bar. That didn't go over well. There's certain times where like, there's certain things like I'll listen to anybody and whatever. But when I'm in the, like, we were like, I think I had 2 drinks and I was thinking about having a third and I never had more than 2. And he ordered me a water instead. And I let it fly. And I was really pissy though. But that's not something I would ever do. I'd be like, excuse the fuck out of me. Who the fuck do you think you are? Just like when I sent the last bit of my like crap that I just didn't want to have. And I sent that box. I don't know if I ever told you this, but the email that I got back from him was, you know damn well I would have told you can't send that to me if you asked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry.
That's not the point.
Yeah, that's not the point. And I didn't realize I needed to ask your motherfucking permission. Who the fuck are you? I'll do whatever the fuck I want. You know, I'm sorry.
Country,
yeah, I'm really sorry if it made you uncomfortable that all the sexual innuendo things that you bought me, I sent back to your house and you opened them in front of your wife. That's not my fucking problem, is it?
Not my fault I had an affair with you. My wife.
I mean, it is my fault that happened, and I still fucking. That's another thing. When I was sick, and I fucking turned around because I had separated from, you know, in my marriage, but he was still very much married, but he had me convinced that she was dangerous. Absolutely. I mean, I think he had us convinced that and it doesn't help. But now knowing what I know, some of the behaviors we saw that made that believable were very likely instigated by his years of molding and like just she learned how to try to have control of the situation to keep her family happy and healthy. And in her mind, you know, and so some people, I mean, eventually, I'm sure it'll blow up in a very, very nasty, ugly manner and whatever. But it's not like her reactions or anything were overly healthy. You know, it's not like she was going out of her way to be a solid individual herself. You know, and after being gone for 7 years and coming back and seeing the effect on the children, I mean. Hey, look at it this way. They can all be as mad at me as they want. I probably should have fucking called Child Protective Services or something, but I didn't because that's not my business. And I'm not that person because I don't believe that the children are in that kind of, I think that they will grow. I think it's going to be hard for them. I didn't see anything that indicated, you know, that their actual physical health was at risk, just their mental health. You know, so I was also reading some interesting things, though, because we go back and forth because of what I did see, what I could see right away that was concerning, because he was at work all the time. And so what I could see right away that was concerning, I could only see her behaviors. And but I was reading about how long-term abuse from a narcissist can affect, you know, like the family and whatever, right? And so one of them is an obsessive control to keep everything perfect and good. You know, at all costs, to make sure that you are, that everything is running the way it is, which is what I'm thinking. There's a very good chance that is why we saw her get in the kid's face the way that we did, which led her, I think she feels like she got control of it and then she didn't, you know? It was such a twisted, I mean, we literally landed in fucking a house of horrors. That's really what it boils down to. From everything that was going on. It was like, people change and grow, and you spend enough time away from them. Don't ever assume you think you know somebody, because what happens today could make somebody tomorrow a completely different person. And I think that's really what we experienced, is that the people, because both of them were so different, the people that we knew when we left, it seemed like he had calmed down to me. That's the thing. I didn't see him being, because, I mean, back in the day, I mean, I used to hear him scream at her all the time, you know? When we, over fucking not ironing her shirts properly. And I know how you feel about that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know, like, how much of it is that he found the perfect person? They got married very quickly. How much of it is that he found the perfect person because she had abandonment issues? She's never going to leave him. And he knows it, so he can act however he wants, and this is the toll it's taken. I believed him when he told me. I do believe that one of the only true things he told me is that he saw me trying to be a better person, and he wanted to try too. I believe that, because I had gotten so much mentally healthier, you know, by the time that we reconnected, that I do believe that he saw that, and then he found out how much work it was going to be, and it is so much easier to manipulate people and fucking try to extort what you want on them. And yeah.
Really?
Actually, yeah. It really is. It's really, once you learn how to do it and you can get people to behave the way that you want to, this is why I was so keen on my whole life of not being that person, because that's what I watched my dad do. I mean, don't get me wrong. Narcissists don't ever let themselves be actually, like, attached to anything except for themselves, which is another reason why he was so easy to just be like, fuck you, I'm done. Because I was no longer manipulated. Like, I kept standing up against the control. I kept standing up against the wishes. I no longer could be the closet whore that he popped in the fucking closet and only pulled out to play with when he wanted it. And that's what happened. And when I stopped being that and realizing where I was and talked about fucking fixing my marriage and talked about building the relationships and working on the things in my life, he lost the war. So there was no interest anymore. Because I think that what he wanted, I think the other true thing that he ever said, and he was drinking one night when he told his wife he just wants to sleep with both of us. I think those are the only,
crazy.
Yeah, I think that's the only two truths that I ever heard. So anyways, so I was just going through all of this, and so chat, usually I wanted to go live and talk about it a little bit because this is like therapy for me right now. In between therapy. And usually my Jeep is therapy, which we're going to talk about that too. But usually my Jeep is therapy. However, my Jeep has now been broken down for almost a month, and I've been going through a lot of things, and I realized that God has pushed me in a direction that everything I thought I needed. Like, I was like, if I lose my last best friend, what is going to happen to me? You know, like, I've got Power Cane, but this was my last real life friend. Like I said, I mean, so by the time it all ended, we had been friends 18 years. Almost, right? Yeah, it would have been, 17. Yeah. 17 years. It was 17 years when it ended.
Right.
So, yeah. Wait, does that mean? Holy shit. That means that in 2026, somebody gets freed from that house. I can't wait to see what she does with her life. I'm excited for her. Anyways, so not that I'll be paying attention, but I'm sure something will be. I just find it hard to believe that we won't ever know. I just know I won't go looking for it anymore. Fuck that shit. So yeah, what else was he gonna say about this? The isolation friends, I talked about that. So turning empathy on and off. Get this. Guess what?
Yeah.
This is gonna be a big one though, because when I tell you this, you're about to be mind blown, and this is why I have this problem where I'm like, so is his wife part of it, or is she just really a serious victim out of it? Because guess what is a fucking symptom of long-term narcissistic relationship abuse?
What would that be?
The victim will learn how to dismiss their emotions in order to avoid conflict. Do you know what that means? Why don't I just put it this way?
Yeah.
The victim will learn how to put their emotions in little boxes and just deal with them themselves.
Yep.
which will literally make anybody crazy, okay? Like, that never works. Burying shit never works. No matter how strong you are, you are worthy, you deserve to be heard. There are ways to be adults and disagree on things, but the reason why narcissistic abuse leads to putting things in boxes is because when they try to explain themselves, the situation gets worse because all you're doing is giving somebody a key to the castle that tells them exactly how to further manipulate you and give them more insight on how they can basically manipulate, change, and affect your life to their own benefit. Okay? So, Chickadee, if you're watching, because I know I'm going to be on the internet, and if she's watching, only she is going to know whether or not she is truly a victim or a victimizer. And all I will say is nobody is ever going to admit to being a victimizer. But if you're unsure if you're a victim or not, that is what the World Wide Web is for. And that is what I learned. The most important thing of this last year is it's not my job to help other people, because people who aren't educating themselves and trying to be better people actively all on their own accord are never going to get better no matter what. Somebody has to seek out help. I mean, I didn't stop going to therapy just because I was, as fucked up as I was. It was more of a reason for me to go even more. When Parker was diagnosed with autism, I didn't just sit and quietly. I found support groups. I found places to get the support and find ways to help myself. My personal opinion is that you will help yourself 100 times faster and better if you have a good, trusted mental health professional helping you. And that's a big, huge thing that people don't understand is you can fire your mental health professionals, guys. Like, if you're not meshing and you want to go get help and you go and it doesn't seem like it's for you the first time, you probably didn't get somebody that is going to work for you anyway. But don't give up. Keep trying. Until you find that person that you're comfortable enough to talk to, or you find that person that, really, my best psychiatrist in the world pissed me the fuck off more than anybody I have ever dealt with in my life. I would get so fucking mad at him. I also only had to see him twice in my life, and he changed my whole life in those 2 visits. I only saw nurse practitioners in between because he was just like, you have a God complex. Why you think you can save everybody? Who are you? What do you owe them? Go home and kick your mother-in-law out for the way she's treating you. This is your house. You're supposed to protect your family. You're supposed to take a stand. Yeah, but she's been through. I don't give a fuck what she's been through, he told me. What about what you're going through right now? What about what she's putting you through? Where do you draw the line? And I was like, oh, you're an ass. And and so fucking dead on. Spot on. What the fuck? I had no excuse. I was making excuses because I didn't want to be mean. And I didn't want to do that to somebody who was already struggling. But that person who was struggling wasn't finding herself any help. She wasn't doing anything to help herself. Everything that she had done because I had pushed her in that direction, from finding, financial independence and security to seeking out mental health professionals. I mean, she only went to the mental health professional 3 times in the 5 years that we were helping her. So, I mean, where was I going with this? My point is that nobody wants to watch somebody they love suffer, but if they've really gone through something, and they're struggling with different depression, even anxiety can be debilitating. And I think we all have some level of anxiety where we get really anxious and we can recognize our anxieties up and whatever, but it doesn't always, anxiety doesn't always lead us to an inability to experience and do life. So, once I accepted that this is where things were going, though, that's what we're getting to now. So I just wanted to bring these things up because these are all things that I struggled with. Everything that I've said on here, I was emotionally drained. I was, confused with a diminished amount of self-worth. My emotions were dismissed, or they were indoctrinated so that I'd be like, I need this from you. And then he'd turn around and do the exact opposite. Because then he's like, oh, you need this? Watch me not do that, bitch. Because you're not going to tell me what to do. All of my healthy attempts, when I would have the moments of clarity where I could have a healthy attempt at communication, it was exploited. And so, anyways, so here's where it wraps around to. I got to the point where I realized that none of it was real. That, as I told one of my friends, he just wanted to take a ride and got it and then was done. I don't think I'll ever believe anything different. I don't think anybody could ever convince me of anything different because, scientifically speaking, that is exactly the trajectory of behavior that occurred. As soon as there was just, it wasn't going to work out for him. I mean, my lease was coming up. I was no longer going to be the girl next door, which gave him easy access, which now I look back on that too. How much of that help was to keep me close? You know, even though I paid him back every time, how much of that help was truly to just make sure that I was easy access? You know? He tried to tell me, I just can't talk to you anymore, but my time with you will forever be special. On what grounds? How do you say that and not give a fuck what's going on in my life all in the same breath? Like, it's just about their persona and what they project to the world and how the world will view them. So they give it a pretty spin, and it sounds like it's all wrapped up in a nice, neat bow, but their actions and their behaviors are demeaning, hurtful, neurotic, and then they tell you you're crazy. That is literally the one thing that goes through all of this. The problem is that with narcissistic abuse, it affects so much more. Like our family, like I said, I mean, I started this all off talking about how IG like looked at this guy like a second father figure. And here's another really interesting thing that I was reading about. So when a narcissist is unsure of themselves, they'll do what is called projection, where they will almost give you a little bit of the truth. Like him saying, you know, sometimes I worry I took advantage of you. Well, the seedling of truth in there is that he knew what he was doing. Him being concerned about what you would think. That is his self-pride, because if he had an ill intent, knew what he was doing, and worried about you catching on to it, that's why he was so worried about what you would think. We had always been smart enough not to even fucking, like, this was never even on my radar, you know? Like, this is, I never would have believed that, I never would have believed that this is something that would have happened. Never in a million years would I have believed that, the way this went down. I mean, I came at it with a fucking 7-page contract of how we had to fucking respect our spouses. And that obviously didn't happen either. You know, even though I was separated, which again, I just hate that. I hate that I was separated. So it's like I tried to absolve myself. And that's part of where my brain was at the time, because I was already so fucked up. But absolving myself of that, thinking that, well, that's not my fault. That's his problem. If he's going to cheat on his 17-year marriage, that's on his page. That's none of my business. You know, but meanwhile, we've got literally 8 children between the two of us are involved, you know? I mean, just to be clear, chat, neither one of us, like, I have my 4 own kids. He had his 4 own kids. But, like, they had been family. You know, and we, like, the thing is I took that very seriously to the point where that's why I was like, we made an agreement that it would never affect the relationship that the children could have. And then he let it do that. And that is on his wife, though. She's the one that just got so jealous. And I get it. I understand that she lost control. I understand that it came out of nowhere. I understand that she got hurt and all of that. But to use your children as warfare is never something that is okay with me. Which is why no matter how upset I was about everything, you guys were never told you couldn't go over there. You were never told you couldn't talk to your friends. You were never told you couldn't do any of that. Meanwhile, that's used as a staple in their house to fucking, you know, guide their litter of puppies and make sure that they use them in hurtful manners. And that's fucked up. You know? Which is why I wouldn't trust either one of them. Because obviously, if they don't care what they're doing to their kids. The only thing I do question, and I wonder, how much of the truth was she getting? What kind of story do you think she's been getting? You know 110% is, oh, that crazy bitch manipulated me. I thought this, I thought that. She did this to me. You know damn well that victim story is being played 1,000 times over of all the ways that I was so psycho and all the fucking things I did. And the worst part about it is because I lost so much composure and self-control after the fact. Oh, I played right into it. It looks exactly like that, like I'm a psycho. And maybe I am. But you know what? So fucking be it. Because I'm not trying to sit here and say that I handled everything gracefully or that I have done everything in the healthiest manner. But in the meantime, I've been educating myself on healthier ways to deal with it and keep it from happening to me in the future. So that's still personal growth. And I'll take it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I am the victim. Poor me. I'm so perfect. Nah. I fucked some shit up. All right? That's called ownership. And I will own my shit. And I'm not proud of it. But that's another sign of how I know I'm not the narcissist. At least I'm willing to say what I did wrong and try to correct it. But when it's just, nope, they're not at fault and they're only the victim, it's a big fucking sign of narcissism. And I'm really, like, sad because I actually know exactly, like, I mean, I know exactly, I wanted to stop the trauma cycle with our family. Being raised by a narcissistic father and everything, I mean, I went overboard, I really do. And in the end, I let this guy be the one that traumatized my family. Because there's no doubt about it. So some of that stuff I was reading about the symptoms, I would say avoidance and isolation landed very high on your list. You wouldn't even go walk your dog because you didn't want to run into him around the block. See how it spills over? Yeah. We hate being in the house here. We hate it. IG still has to do it because he has a dream to be whatever he's being in life. But me, I'm like, no, I can't sit at a computer 24/7. And so, you know, after when we got to the point after we went to South Padre, which is IG's newest video on IRL 326. But once we went to South Padre, while we were standing there, I felt so much at peace. And the funny thing about that is that trip, I blocked his phone number and blocked him from contacting me because I was already dealing with some health crap. And I was like, this is going to be a chance for me to make memories with my kid that I need to make because he needs to be my sole focus. I'm not going to let this D-bag fucking turn around and deter me from that, you know? And nothing was being volatile at the time. We were keeping texts short. Nothing was that bad, but I blocked him and I never got a single text message. And apparently he had texted me quite a few things. Well, we were on that trip. I never got them. I never know what they are. It didn't matter to me at the time because my only focus was to, after everything we had been through and as far as we had gone, because at the time we had to move out of that house. We were living in a hotel. We had, you know, and we were looking for new places to live. And we came down here to look. And then we decided to just go on. And we went and spent 3 days down at South Padre. And we really figured that we would probably move right down there until, you know, the trip home. Anybody wants to know what that is all about, I'd have to go watch IG's video. I'm not discussing that on this stream right now.
IRL 326.
So,
subscribe.
But no, I think that, so I came back and I was like, oh my God, I was taking the rental car up. We were going to clean it out. We were getting ready because we were going to return it after we got back from our trip. And I drove, I got lost driving back because I didn't really know, I hadn't been out driving a lot, obviously, because we had no vehicle. When I drove by Daisy in the parking lot. And I think it was BK and LP that were with me. And, but I drove and I was like, what is that? And I mean, I like slowed way down and I like pointed and I saw her and I was like, you guys, I'm going to buy that Jeep. I'm going to buy that Jeep and we're going to move to the fucking island. And, you know, everybody's like, oh, you know, yeah, that sounds fun. That's a cool Jeep. All right, you know, whatever. And then I fucking did it. Went in there, bought Daisy, that exact Jeep, same one I said I was going to buy. We did it. We bought it, and we fucking moved. We didn't move to the island we thought we were going to move to, and that's, again, we got a little scared. Not all of our puppies have papers, meaning Brandon. No, just kidding. No, okay, just to be clear, chat, he's American born, he's grew up his whole life in Minnesota, all of that, but the thing is that he has Hispanic descent in his family, and when his mom left him and went to Wyoming, I have no credentials for him. So he's 18 years old, and I have no birth certificate, ID, or actual social security card for him at this point. So he had gotten an ID, but she closed her mailbox before it got delivered. So not to mention she got his eye color wrong, but all of that. So that would have been a problem anyway. But then we had to leave because we ended up homeless and we ended up going down to Texas. She closed her PO box. So he never got an ID. So I'm literally sitting, I have an undocumented, completely legal child, but my whole family is blonde hair, blue-eyed, and incredibly fair complexion. And he's over here with his extra hair growth and his darker hair and slightly darker skin because he does have Hispanic descent within him. And I just have a feeling that I don't want to try to have to prove who he is at this day and time in life. I just think that IG had a good point. So we decided to move down a little further north than all the way down where we would have to encounter that. So, you know, because again, go watch IG's video. I'm not talking about it. I don't want to talk about it any more than this, but we did have a reason to be concerned that, you know, we didn't want him to get like detained by Border Patrol anytime we wanted to go into San Antonio is what it boils down to. And good Lord, I've given enough clips. If somebody were to just take this and clip out like every other word, I've got enough clips to get canceled and I'm not even getting started. Anyhow, so we bought the Jeep and we moved down here, but now the Jeep's been down for 30 days right now. I think it's almost 30 days. It will be. I know when it went down because anytime I touch the Luigi board, the next day something bad happens, or now it's even faster. So, which chat, by the way, Luigi board is what we call Ouija boards for one. But second of all, it's a big no-no in my house. I mean, you could probably get away with a lot of stuff, but I do not believe the same as Hasbro. I do not believe that you should be able to be 8 years old and conjure the devil. So, so
yeah,
they just
Hasbro, what the fuck was up with that?
So
it's fucking next year. Fisher Price laptop is the fucking, you know, portal to the netherworld. Fucking, I'm gonna fucking be sending my imaginary emails to Karen while talking to Lucifer in the fucking other chat.
Hey, I think you just described Yahoo when it came out in fucking 1998 or something. No, they were out before that, but I mean, that's about when I started hanging out online. Holy fuck. Anyways. So anyhow, I'm going to want to split these streams up, I think, today. So that's going to be my plan, IG. I want to stream multiple times today, but I want to try to keep it off like on each one being on a certain topic. Because I might actually just edit them and so that they can go up in regular podcast format, you know? So I guess like this one I was talking about trauma healing, my deep daisy, mental health perception or perspectives. Oh, that's the thing, guys. Okay. So I probably, if I do edit this in any way, shape or form, or if it's put up, because that's why we have these screens going is because really I'm just doing it for the audio, but I like to make visual things that pop up on the screen. So it's really just a podcast. That way I don't feel like I have to go get my makeup on and look pretty for the internet if I want to talk about something. And if I'm going to cry, I'm going to cry. So I just don't want the pressure of, you know, what I expect out of myself. So this way, I like it much better. So, but really we're just going for the audio because we plan to like, you know, make different edits and possibly turn it into a podcast. Cause this is the extent of what I want to be doing on the internet. I got a lot to say. I don't even have the time to write my book the way that I want to. And I'm not sure how much I want to go back into that, but this is going to be like me just talking everything out and wanting to explain certain things. And I'll probably talk about different experiences that I've had. And, you know, like we're going to run it like that. So I'm pretty sure that right now, because I've talked about, because of the topic at hand here, we're going to end up probably taking a little break here and we'll come back around 5 where I'm going to probably want to talk about what the ocean means to me and my G. Because, and I think IG will have some good things to say about that, but we'll stay on topic for that. I wanted to get this particular one out of the way because poor Power Cane has probably spent as many, so if we're going to break it down, hours. All right, let's just do it this way. Like by the hour. I'm not talking about, don't measure a day like, oh, just because it happened once a day. I'm going to break it down by the hour. And I would say that Power Cane has listened to this bullshit come out of my mouth about dealing with this loss of my friendship for 343 of the 365 days of the year. Like hours. There were times where I would just be so confused and I would sit in Discord for 19 hours talking. I'd be quiet for a minute and then my brain would bounce and I'd be like, well, what if it's this? And maybe I should just that. And I think I overthinking everything, second guessing everything about my life is how I spent all my time with him. Because none of it was true. And I have a side where even crazy, I'm very in tune with people's feelings, but I didn't trust myself. So I'm in tune. I'm thinking that I am in tune with the feelings and whatnot, when really I was doing everything ass backwards. Like, I think I was hanging on more to the words and ignoring the feelings because that's the only explanation I can have. Because if it's the other way around, then I'm completely wrong. And I don't know what his fucking issue is, but he's broken. Because at that point, like, if I'm wrong and it's really he's over there and he's that broken, then he's too broken for me anyhow. And that's just the way that is. Because if it's not narcissistic or he doesn't realize that he's doing it or he doesn't the one thing I did know is that we're never going to figure it out because he was never going to make the fucking effort to get better, you know? But it made me literally crazy. Like, I can't even get mad that his wife is like the crazy lady. Yeah. And all the more respect to her in the world if she's not. But if she is, I think I start to understand it. You know, like I'm just there. So anyways, Powerkin doesn't want to hear me talk about this anymore. And Powerkin is at work right now. So I popped in here because I wanted to do this and I wanted to get this off my chest because I've just been reading a lot of it. I've been like going through all this narcissistic abuse survivor stuff. And I guess the most important thing that I really want to say and what matters to me the most are these things. Number one, if you love somebody that is struggling with mental health, good job. Pat yourself on the back, take a deep breath for a minute, okay? Because that is I do understand. Because for those of you that don't know, before I ended up with PTSD, I had devoted almost 3 years of my life taking care of a loved one who then turned on me, stabbed me in the back, and almost cost us all our life. And that's how my PTSD came about. But I'm not angry with her, and I get it, because what happens is she lost the war. She lost the war. This is a fight. You know, anybody that thinks just be different, or that's just silly that you feel that way, or whatever, people that don't know what it's like to walk in these shoes might say is all irrelevant. In the end of the day, I used to tell my children all the time, there's nobody guaranteed to be here with you until the day you die, except for you yourself. Be somebody you can. And the truth is, in the end, you also got to be the only one you need. You got to make sure that you take care of yourself. And I think that for a lot of us out there that end up experiencing this, it's so much easier to actually put our time into feeling good about ourselves, which is not the same as healing ourselves and taking care of ourselves. I gave all the love in the world to so many people. I increased my mental health. Just increasing my mental health is not the same thing as dealing with my own mental health issues. Okay, there are two different levels on that. Although I tried my best to tackle what I was willing to see. This is why professionals are so helpful. I learned, I educated myself. I do believe that I did everything in my power, but this last year has been the hardest year of my life. After everything that has been what is considered traumatic and hard for me, and people think, oh my God, they can't even handle to hear my life story, nothing measures up to this last year. And it was the fight of my life. Never when my mom died or my dad beat me or, you know, whatever the fuck I've been through in my life, never once did I want to take my own life until this last year. This last year, I've never dealt with suicidal ideation on that level. Like, I mean, I think that there's a huge difference between some of us just being like, oh, sick and tired of being alive. Like, just tired and like, oh my God, if I died tomorrow, I just don't even fucking care anymore. That's one thing, okay? But there's a completely different one with thinking that you're so low and you are such a problem and you are so sick of fighting, because that's what it really is. Even if you don't think you're a problem and you don't feel that way, and even if it's not that, the fight that we have to put in to live every day gets so fucking exhausting that I can't even fucking emotionally explain it, okay? It is the darkest pits of hell. If hell exists, I think I've seen it. And I hadn't before this last year. So even though I was well aware, well educated in mental health, well understanding of psychology, lifelong experience of various forms of trauma, I mean, you sign me up, I've got it all. I would have thought I was untouchable. And I also think that part of the reason why our family member ended up losing her shit is I was too positive. She didn't believe me anymore. She didn't believe she was going to get well, and she snapped. That's what I think happened. But I just was sometimes I think I was being too much of a cheerleader. Because I think at some point she was like, bitch, you think this is easy? Have a try. Go for it. Let's see what happens if your life looks like mine. Because that's exactly what she tried to do. That's exactly what she tried to do. She came and attacked us from every angle of trauma, like any of the trauma I did have left from a childhood. She knew every one of them, and she tried to attack every single one of them. It was strategic. It was calculated, but it was a survival mentality because she was surviving. I mean, she also like told people that we put cameras in her head and shit. So, I mean, this is where she was at. She snapped, you know, but then I had to walk that mile. And I understand how people get lost. And I understand how hard it is now. And I no longer can sit here and just be like, you know, keep your chin up, guys. Everybody's got somebody and everybody loves everything. You're not going to hear that shit out of me anymore. Not anymore at all.
Just Pinky from My Little Pony.
But what I will tell you is you can be strong enough for yourself. And sometimes that is what it is. Sometimes we are so focused on pleasing others that we don't even have the time to deeply look within in order to take care of ourselves and heal our wounds. Because we have wounds and other people just don't understand how it feels inside. And so we get sick and tired of being weights on them, and then we want to just turn around and try to be better, and it gets us down this dark hole, and then we feel better about ourselves because we feel accomplished. Well, wound that needed stitches and downtime is just barely band-aided and dripping just ever so slowly and healing in a longer fashion over time because we're not tending it. And that has been the hardest thing that I have ever had to learn this last year, is that I had to learn how to love myself. I didn't want to. I didn't feel like I was worth it at the time. That was another thing I read. Narcissistic abuse victims typically end up having a problem in their faith. They start giving up because they pray for things and then they don't listen. Can you believe that shit? Exactly what I did. Scary. But anyways, back to what I was saying is it's really important for us to do what we need to do in order to help ourselves. You know, I mean, as bad as this is going to sound, if you're really too much for someone and you feel that way, then maybe you're better off without them. It can just be really hard to see things that way. Maybe you're worth it. If that person's interactions with you in life are making you feel more like worse and sad versus healthier and happier, then maybe they don't fit with you. Maybe you need your own space, because instead of trying to focus on whatever they want you to be, figure out who you are and feel your own. And I think it's super important. I think it's super important for people to reach out and get the help that they need and not be afraid to talk to people. And I hope that the stigma surrounding around mental health, gets better in time, because in the end, I think that's a big reason why people they're the problem, and people don't understand, and they're crazy if they go and get help. I mean, I went to a freaking psych ward. I admitted myself and called 911 and had them take me to a psych ward because my brain did not feel right. And it's one of the best things I ever did. But I was not afraid of getting the help that I needed. And guys, we're all worth it. We're all worth it. And we don't have to be worth it to anybody else. It's not about whether or not tomorrow, if you die, if anybody will even miss you. What it's about is, as you're laying there, will you be okay with yourself? And as long as you're living your life to the best of your ability where you're okay with you, then I think you're doing things. So, anyways, we'll probably be live again here in another hour and a half, because we're going to talk about the fact that I might be getting Daisy back tomorrow. Daisy. Oh, where is he? Did he wake up? He's sleeping really good. Yeah, you know what I noticed? He doesn't like it when I'm on the bed, but if I sit in my chair, he's just like, whoa, I'm not bothering anything. He's like, don't fuck with mom at the computer. He just goes. Oh,
now you teach Gunner not to fuck with you at the computer, but Hottie, on the other hand, you're all like, oh yeah, Hottie can fuck with me all the time at the computer. What the fuck?
I did not do that. Your dog just obsessively, compulsively does it. There was one time I elbowed him in the nose. I'm sorry he doesn't learn as quickly. Gunner doesn't like to be struck.
You gotta do it a couple times for Hottie. Hottie's.
Oh, does your dog have autism?
No, you gotta do it at least 3 times.
Okay, that was an inside joke, chat. Just so I can be clear real quick. We were once told that our dog may have autism, but also, BK does, and he reacted to the joke, bro. Yeah, I know. He does. He admits it, and he knows it, because everybody that has issues, everybody has issues in life, but smart people knows what theirs are. And BK knows that he has to usually do things like 2 or 3 times in order to really get it, like and remember, and then improve on it, and then he does, and then it's good, you know. So I was just making a joke. What, I need to do that to Hottie? That was my joke, chat.
Well, Hottie's more like a raptor, where he's trying to test the defense boundary. So you gotta really just shut him down.
He's such an aggressive breed. You know what? I got a rant on this. I am adding Hottie to the list of what we're going to talk about when we go live at 6 o'clock, because it's going to be my Jeep Daisy. It's going to be the beach, and living our life goals. And then it's going to be the fucking husky Hottie from hell. No, I love him. He's like the sweetest thing ever, you guys. He is so cute, but huskies are for real a different level, bro. Different level of breed. So. Yeah, definitely. All right. So, yeah, I guess I got off topic so many times, but this is just, it feels just like Animal Crossing. But what I was going to say is I like to stay off the topic of, you know, he who should not be named and that whole topic of things when Hurricane's not around. I know he's talking about that because he's probably listened to so many damn hours of it that I just try to, he doesn't want to hear anymore. I mean, he literally came up with a random fact scheme where anytime I would be like, maybe it's, he's like, so random fact. And he would just like, they were horribly not even the kind of information that you're like, go, that's really interesting. And I wish I had that nonsensical information. They weren't even that good, but it was the point. Shut me down.
Yeah, he was he
Let me shut up.
He had to dig. He had to be quick on his on the trigger. So.
Yeah, you obviously wasn't pre-writing them like I would have if I wanted to execute that.
All right. And yeah, I don't think he was going out of his way to make it like a minute. I don't think he was gonna take time out of his day for it.
Oh my god, that's fucking hilarious.
I didn't think he was gonna sit there and be like, hold on, I gotta prep my interesting facts for the day when Andromeda talks about.
Yeah, it would have been great if he did, though, because then we would have known exactly how many times it happened. How much of a list? I think he would have had to make a daily list of maybe 25. I think 25 could have been hit. Maybe not every day, but I bet there's 25 different occasions where I brought up a new thing that was making me cause for concern and making me wonder if I was crazy that I would talk about regarding him. Until I get another text or a phone call. Then I'd gush. I was really, literally like living that cycle. I was in a cycle. I was cycling a drain. It's yikesy. That's yikesy.
Yep.
So. All right. Well, I know exactly what I want to do with this fucking podcast right now. So what we're going to do is we'll be live at probably around 6 o'clock Central Time. So in what is that, an hour and a half? 30? No, that would only be 5. So, well, I don't know. We'll be live between 5 and 6 while we talk about what we're doing now and my Jeep Daisy and the Husky from Hell, because I got some shit to say about that. All right, chat. So until then, I guess we'll see you out there. I'm going to go and just export, like, download this and, like, pop it up over on Second Gen Geeks and invite Second Gen Geeks to come over to twitch.tv/Andro's Bar and join us for the conversation. All right, guys. Take care of yourselves. You say that, G?
And each other. I didn't know I was... You know, this was a new responsibility of mine.
I'm just seeing if you're listening.
No,
Actually,
I'm listening.
It's funny, though, because we changed it. I don't say take care of yourself and each other anymore, do I? I just say take care of yourselves. Yeah.